Good evening. Welcome to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and as always, we have a very special lady with us. But during this first half, I'd like to thank our sponsors, De La Basque Deli Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque delicious chorizo, as well as Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegar, and international health teas. So let's welcome Sandy Markoe. Sandy, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
It's great to be here with you, Carol.
Thank you. You know, Sandy and I really don't know each other all that well. We have met in and out of offices around Carson City, but we have a lot in common because we grew up about the same time and we've gone through many changes in life. Sandy's a professional, she's now retired, and so I think that for our viewing audience, this is a program tonight with Sandy that's going to feature some of the decisions that we have to make as females after we retire and some of the considerations that we need to think about before we retire, because it's really a very different life.
Absolutely, that it is.
Okay, so Sandy, help us by understanding, where did you grow up and what was it like? Were you, I'm a child, I grew up in the 40s and the 50s, okay? I was a war baby, World War II. What about yourself?
I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Grew up in California, lived in the Central Valley in a town called Stockton.
Okay.
It was very small, considering. And it was a great time because everything was easy. You can go out and play. You didn't have to tell, Mom wasn't looking for you all the time. Both my parents worked, and I had an older sister, so she kind of watched out for me.
So there are two siblings in the family.
Right.
How much difference in age is there between you and your sister?
There was 5.5 years.
Okay, quite a bit, significant, so that
Yes.
she did.
She ruled the roost.
Okay. And one day hoping that you would do so.
Absolutely.
You know, Sandy, you said something that I can identify too, and I think a lot of our viewers can. After the war and into the 50s, when Truman had left office and Dwight Eisenhower came in as president, there was kind of a feeling amongst our neighborhood kids that, like you say, we were free to go from yard to yard. When we heard our mom's voice say, Carol, come in for lunch, right, time to come home, supper time, we heard it, we went, and there was more or less an unspoken agreement among neighborhood parents that they knew where everyone was.
Right.
They kept an eye out.
And they kind of watched out for each other, too.
Yes.
Yeah, because, like I said, my mother worked, and so, there were other neighbors that kind of watched out for us.
So while you were home with your older sister, what types of things besides playing outside did she keep you involved with just to keep that eye on you?
Oh, my. She didn't do a whole lot because she was older, and she liked to be with what turned out to be her husband, but her boyfriend, and my mother always insisted that she take me along, so she wasn't too happy about that. But
you had automatic, you were a chaperone service.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
And where my mother worked at the time, I was able to be with my mother if I wanted to be.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. And when you grew up in California, that's a huge state. And you can go from one of it to the other, and still you had so many different cities, so many different choices of if you took a family vacation or if you decided to take a weekend break, there was always the ocean.
Absolutely.
And water has a special effect on me. Did it have a special effect on you at all?
Well, it did, but I'm not crazy about swimming, but I did love to go to the ocean. We spent a lot of summers in Santa Cruz, and of course we had family in San Francisco, so we were at the beach there a lot.
And I remember as a child vacationing with my parents from the Midwest, and we had taken a summer's 6 or 8 week tour of the West because it was so different from what the Midwest is like, or certainly than the East Coast or even the South. And San Francisco was a destination for the movies, for Farmers Market, which was also in Los Angeles, and for Chinatown, for the great Chinese
and the
eating.
Park.
Oh, yes.
Golden Gate Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the trolley rides.
Yes.
I can still remember, nearly losing everything I had to eat, on the trolley rides. But it was a time when the pace was different. The environment was different.
Exactly.
And things have changed.
Yes. dramatically.
Dramatically. Do you ever go back to California?
I do, because I have 2 daughters that live in the Sacramento area, and I have
right.
3 grandchildren. So I do get back there, and I love being with them. But after living here for the 9 years, you get used to the quieter life and the minimal traffic. So Sacramento is nothing compared to Los Angeles, but traffic-wise, and I can handle that. But we do go back.
Now, when you moved out of the home after your education was finished, what kind of a world did you enter into? Were you trained in a special way for special jobs? Because you have been a leader in this community of Carson City from almost the moment that you arrived. And I have to believe, and I don't know this, that you've been a leader in other areas in California perhaps as well.
Once my children were at the age where I could go back to work, I did that.
And what did you do?
I worked for some large corporations. I was admin assistant.
Okay.
And,
so in the administrative end of it.
Right. And I thoroughly loved it. I enjoyed it, every minute of it.
What is corporate life like?
Well, back, in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, 90s.
You're talking about the Clinton years, the Reagan years.
Right.
When business and the economy were fairly
It was
booming.
very good,
Yes.
yeah. It was wonderful. I mean, I worked for some big companies that treated me very well, and I was able to move up, and there was a lot of camaraderie and a lot of activities, and you were given the opportunity to do what you could do best and improve yourself. And there was never any time where you felt that they were scrutinizing everything you were doing.
All right, now I'm sure that some of our listeners, especially women, are asking, in the 80s and 90s, when the economy was so robust, and there were a lot of things in the background that were going to come to the surface that were not necessarily what we wanted to hear or wanted to see or deal with. But for a woman, was there any type of ceiling that you couldn't get above because you were female? Did you ever feel that? Or did you feel that the opportunity existed equally for men and women?
Absolutely. And in my position, I went to college for 2.5 years. I did not get a degree.
Okay.
So I just happened to be at the right place at the right times. I was dependable. I showed up. I didn't have an attitude. I did my job, and I always improved. And I didn't climb the ladder, but I was a manager.
Yes, and so that meant that you had to make some very important decisions with the employees and for the company, and to keep in mind, okay, you're working for a corporation. What were some of those decisions that you can recall that, if not memorable, they certainly were very important to you as a manager? What types of decisions, what types of situations, challenges was a part of your world?
I think I met with the customers and our business partners, and so you always had to, know what you were talking about, be on top of it. And then on the personnel side, I had some issues that I had to deal with that weren't always pleasant.
But that's a part of a manager's
absolutely comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory. And how did that help you grow as a person?
Well, I think it helped me to be able to move on to other things. It helped me with my family life, with raising my children, and just dealing with people on a one-to-one basis or in a group.
I also think that, as you've well put it, but you haven't come out and completely said it, but I sense too that it helps diminish or get rid of some fears that you have inside.
Absolutely, yes.
When you take a position, when you rise to the level of management and administration, you are expected, and you are going to be given, and you are going to have to deal with some sticky issues.
Yes.
And it forces you to think a lot of different ways in order to resolve those issues.
Absolutely. And to call upon other sources to help you through it, or getting best practices to, to see how to deal with them. And I think it also gave me a lot of confidence, because I did not enjoy getting up in front of a group of people at a seminar or something and talking about whatever the subject was.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and now in some of the clubs that I belong to, being a president, it's put me at ease. I don't feel fearful.
And you call upon that past experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Emotionally as well as mentally.
Absolutely.
What was mentorship like in those years? Did they have mentors that you could go to that could be called upon, trusted to give some pretty wise or sage advice?
Oh, I think so. When I first went back to work, there were several women that mentored me. And one of them, I'll never forget, she said, if you can be a mother, you can be a supervisor.
Oh, I love it. I agree with it completely. Okay. I agree with it completely. I used to think, I'm a retired teacher, and I taught in several areas of the United States plus overseas. And if you can manage a classroom and frame in that classroom and have those children learn, or in some cases my juniors and seniors in high school, you can be a pretty effective mom at home too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's great ground building for a parent is to be involved in an administrative or managerial area of life.
Yeah.
Yes, position. Yeah. So what brought you to Carson City? First of all, why did you retire? Did you have to, or did you
No,
choice?
when my husband was getting ready to retire, we decided we could not stay in California for financial reasons.
Right.
And we wanted to stay close to California.
Okay.
So we decided, after looking at Reno and Carson, we settled in Dayton. And my husband worked for another 5 or 6 months. But I was able to work from home. I gave them a proposal saying, what I do in the office, I can easily do at home.
You became a carpet commuter.
Exactly. But I didn't come to work in my pajamas.
Okay. That training of professional dress was still
exactly.
working.
Well, not quite professional, but I was dressed.
You know, it makes a difference how you're dressed as to how you handle your job and you handle people, don't you think?
Absolutely. The company that when I retired, that they had a little mirror, and on the mirror it said, what you see is what they hear.
Rather than what you see is what you get.
Well, yes. So if you had a frown on your face, they weren't going to hear a very pleasant person.
Well, Sandy, when we come back to the second half, we're going to talk about some of the issues that we deal with after retirement.
Okay.
It's not all peaches and cream.
No, it's not.
All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
When a disaster strikes our region, will you be ready? Learn about sheltering in place. Since each emergency is different, make sure you plan for alternate routes away from your neighborhood. Plan meeting places and long-distance phone numbers if you are separated. Assemble food, water, medicines for at least 3 days, and a portable radio to stay informed. Remember, make a plan, assemble a kit, stay informed, be ready. For more information, contact your local emergency manager.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Blast into summer with Carson Nuggets $1 million Red, White, and Blue Summer Giveaway, where we are giving away scooters all summer long. And with daily free play giveaways, cash bash weekends, outdoor barbecues, and more. Come in today to heat up your summer.
A fire-adapted community is prepared to survive a wildfire with little or no firefighter assistance. To help prevent ignition by embers, remove dead and dying plants from around your home. Be sure to remove low-hanging branches and the flammable plants underneath your trees. also known as ladder fuels. Non-flammable plants and pathways create separation and help prevent fire from spreading to your home. Make it lean, clean, and green.
Visit livingwithfire.info for more tips to save your home.
Hi, welcome back to the second half of our show, Women to Women. Again, I'm Carol Paz. We're with Sandy Markoe, and we're going to get back to Sandy in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to thank our advertisers for the second half. CarsonNow.org. It's the 24/7 place to go for everything that's happening here in Carson City. So look for that name, CarsonNow.org, on your websites. And we'd also like to thank the Nevada Appeal and the Record Courier. They always encourage us to buy locally, support our small businesses, and look for those special coupons. They have booklets that appear in their Sunday editions that are a great bargain for all of us. So we thank you very much for those advertisements. All right, Sandy, when we left off, we had discussed that retirement coming up. There are many thoughts, and you decided to leave California for financial reasons, as many couples have done who are looking at retirement. You didn't want to get too far away, so you chose the Nevada area. Now, once you leave the corporate world behind, as you were in, once you leave your former stomping ground, so to speak, behind, and you move into a new territory, wow. Even though we've had some decades of living on this earth, it's still kind of a culture shock.
Yes,
it can be a displacement shock. Did you go through any of that?
A little bit.
Okay.
When we left California, I worked for a year at home, and then they offered a retirement package that I couldn't refuse, so I took it. And like 3 months later, I get a card in the mail from a retailer who says they're opening a new shop. Would I like to come and work for them?
Oh, wow.
So I did that, and I worked in Reno for about 2 years.
Were you also living in Reno at the time?
No, we were in Dayton.
So
we've
you were
been in
making a
Dayton.
commute,
Yes.
okay.
And the commute got to be not terrible, but gas prices were going up.
Yes.
And the winters in the Washoe Valley, I wasn't too thrilled
And
about.
traffic is an issue.
Yeah.
Traffic
yeah.
is an issue.
So I retired from that, and
You were in that how long, did you say?
almost 2 years.
Okay.
And then I was bored again, and we live in a community where there's a golf course, but I tried to golf. It's not for me.
I cannot make sense of chasing a ball around, this little orange or this little white ball.
Right.
So I understand that
Right.
a lot of people love it. It's a passion.
Right.
Go on.
So I applied at another retailer in Carson, and I worked for them for almost 4.5 years.
Now, your husband has retired.
He has retired. He retired the year we moved here.
Okay. Did
So-
you see any signals from him or any behaviors from him that said, Sandy, is this going to go on forever?
Yes, he wasn't always happy that
Okay.
I was away or working, but for my own peace of mind and enjoyment, I really enjoyed it. I liked being with the public. I liked being busy. I liked structure, and I just like to get out.
Yes, yes. This is not referring to you, but it's referring to us. Oftentimes, couples who have been married for many, many decades, okay, and we've both worked. You've had 2 incomes coming in. And yet, when retirement or buyout packages come along and we take it, it's almost as if, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, Sandy, but did you ever feel like, okay, here you are, husband and wife, back under the same roof for many, many hours at a time.
Right.
And it's a little bit unusual. It's kind of a situation where you have to learn how to live all over again with one another.
I agree wholeheartedly. And
So I'm not losing it when I say that.
No,
okay,
you're not.
okay.
And this is a second marriage for me. So my husband and I have, we didn't have children together, but we've got our own
Yes.
and a blended family.
Yes.
So that was kind of a challenge. And his hobbies are not exactly my hobbies. He likes to golf. He was a wonderful sailor. I would go out there and grip the rails, don't get the rails in the water. But
Keep it straight,
that
keep it
was
straight.
that was his love. And so it's been a challenge all along.
And in that part of that challenge, I've always felt too, when you're in a corporate world, you really are having discussions and conversations at a different level than a home level.
That's right.
And he too.
Right.
So when you come back into the house, you come back into your home, and the conversational level is entirely different. And sometimes the content is entirely different.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of a shock.
It is. And when we were both working, we always had something to talk about. How
Yes.
was your day? Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And now when I was working, and I would relate all kinds of stories to him. And he's been involved at our home with our homeowners association, so that keeps him very busy.
And
But
it's very
there's still that need for getting
Outside
back
of the
together.
home, yes.
Well, and getting back together and having these good discussions that don't drag you down or don't
Yes.
further not disappoint you, but make you feel like
Sometimes
you can't do
ill at
anything.
ease.
Yeah.
Ill at ease. And that's one of the issues in retirement that we all are going to have to deal with, regardless if we have a 30-year marriage, a 40-year marriage, a 50-year marriage, or a 5-year marriage.
Right.
So the environment changes. And if you, at this point in your life, Sandy, were able to share with some of our viewers out there, what would you suggest to them to start thinking about if they're in their 40s, mid-40s, late 40s, and they think, well, I'm going to retire, about 55 or 58. What should they start thinking about now?
Well, I think that, they want to think about what they want to do once they retire, where they want it to go. Don't give up your girlfriends. They're so important.
That networking is special.
Right, especially. And
women do it well.
yes, they do. A lot better than men do.
Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know. I don't think they like to bare their souls. And I think women can more easily put it out there.
And the women can let tears flow, perhaps more
Absolutely.
often,
Yeah.
and on certain occasions, better than men
Yes.
can. And with that catharsis of letting those tears out and letting those feelings out, it really is a cleansing experience.
Right.
But you do it with those people that you are closest,
Comfortable.
companionable to,
Right.
and are confidential
Right.
with. Yes, it can be a very good healing process.
And when my children were growing up, I was very involved. I did volunteer work with Easter Seals, with our synagogue, in the school. And when I went back to work, I still volunteered.
Yes.
So I'm doing some of that now. I've got to get back into it because now I'm totally retired. I'm not working. And
You feel the pull.
I do.
Come back
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Well, Sandy, you're articulate, you're very intelligent, and you've been very involved with the public in California as well as Nevada. Now, I met you when you were president of the Republican Women's
Right.
Organization.
Right.
For how long did you do that?
For 2 years.
Okay, and that's a challenge.
It's a big challenge, and especially during
An election.
year. Yes.
All right. What skills, and you've kind of intimated in just our recent past conversation, what skills did you bring forth that you really had to apply, not only with the women in that group, but with the public in general? Because you were out there on the front lines often.
Right. I think your organizational skills make a big part of it.
Yes.
Welcoming everybody, being open to ideas and suggestions.
It's a natural, and you're a natural in leadership. And sometimes when you are a leader and you're natural with something, it doesn't occur to you that somebody else doesn't think the same way, isn't planning, isn't organizing the same way.
Right.
And so those are special gifts that you've been given. And I'm very much a believer, and I believe those are God-given gifts, that you have honed, you've sharpened. We have that expression that iron
Right.
sharpens
Right.
iron. And you have learned from others, but now you are also a mentor in many ways to other women.
Well, thank you. I must say that I owe a lot to my parents because, during the war, my father had his own business. He worked 6 days a week. On Sunday, he worked in our yard. I mean, I can't remember any big vacations we ever took because he was very homebound.
Yes.
And my mother worked until she was in late 60s.
Yes.
And I just, you were taught to be responsible and what was expected of you.
Now, I have a question, and you can dodge it if you want to, okay, or you can wade right in. I've lived more of my life on the East Coast in New York, and in New York City, and a little bit upstate, about 60 miles north of New York City, in Westchester County, as well as Orange County, Dutchess County. And I have a great many Jewish friends that I admire, and they're predominantly Democratic.
Right.
And you are Republican. How did that happen?
I don't know. Well, I think meeting my husband now really opened my eyes.
To what?
To, the ways of being conservative and how I'm truly not a Democrat. I'm fiscally responsible. I'm conservative. Small government, less taxes.
And something that I really respect, the Jewish families are so about the education of their children.
Absolutely.
And whether it's reading, whether it's in music, whether it's in law, whether it's in medicine, they are advocates for a really great education. And they, as your father did, he sacrificed a lot of personal time and pleasure that he could have had outside of the home, giving it back into the home with the children and for the children. So that's a great background to have coming in. Now, are you of a mixed marriage?
No.
Okay.
My first husband and my present husband are both Jewish.
And for them to be Republican conservatives.
Well, my first husband wasn't.
Okay. That's fine too. That's fine too. But now that you are at this stage in life where you're at, for young women out there, we're not thinking about retirement now, but we're thinking about value systems and systems that really define who we can be or who we want to be. And it's not all about ourselves, certainly. There are so many people, starting with parents who are our original teachers, our first teachers, our friendships that we form. What have you found, Sandy, to be a trustworthy path, or a path that has brought you personal happiness, spiritual contentment, a way of living that has brought a sense, what should I say, a fulfillment?
I think just drawing upon my past and my family and just that gut feeling of, what's right, you know what you need to do, and just follow through with your convictions.
And what you're saying, I hear as well, it's one thing to say, okay, this is wrong and we shouldn't do this, or this is right and we should do this, but actually doing it is the important part.
Right.
A lot of us talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk.
And I was also going to say, you have to be open to other opinions.
Yes, very much so. Very much
information,
so.
yeah.
It's such a process growing up, isn't it?
It is.
And
Never ending.
Right, and it's such a process and a privilege to have people who have different opinions that you do.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, how do you build bridges? How do you begin to understand one another if we all thought the same way?
It would be very boring, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, Sandy, you've given us a lot of food for thought, and I thank you so
thank
much
you.
for being with us.
I
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Thank
and
you.
I'll look for your face out there in the public here in Carson City. 'Cause
absolutely.
you're not a stay-at-home
No, I'm
person.
not.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We'll be back next week with a very special guest. In the meantime, stay well. Have a good evening. Good night.